Can you actually train your body to need less sleep? If you sleep 5 hours every night, will your brain eventually adapt? Or will you just stop noticing how tired you really are? Why do some people swear they only sleep 4 hours while the rest of us can barely function after 6? Is sleep really something you can train like a muscle, or is that one of the biggest productivity myths on the internet? Because of your anything like most people, you've probably had nights where you look at the clock and thought, I'll survive on less sleep tonight. Then the next night you did it again and again until one day you started wondering, maybe my body is getting used to this. It's a fair question. Especially today, we're constantly told to wake up earlier, work harder, build a side business, learn AI, hit the gym, read more books, somehow fit 26 hours into a 24-hour day. So, what's the easiest thing to sacrifice? Sleep. But here's what surprised me. I spent weeks digging into sleep research, reading books written by sleep physicians, reviewing neuroscience studies, and listening to some of the world's leading sleep researchers. And the answer I found wasn't what I expected. Because the real question isn't whether you feel like you adapted, it's whether your brain actually has. And those two things turn out to be very different. You know what's interesting? Almost everyone thinks they've adapted to less sleep at some point in their life. Maybe you've said it yourself. I only sleep 6 hours now. My body is used to it. Or I don't need 8 hours anymore. And honestly, it makes perfect sense because after a few days of sleeping less, something strange happens. You don't always feel as tired as you get on day one. So your brain reaches a very reasonable conclusion. I guess I adapted. But here's the problem: feeling better and performing better aren't the same thing. This is where sleep researchers found something fascinating. In one of the most well known sleep research studies, people were allowed only a limited amount of sleep for several nights. After a while, many of them stopped reporting that they felt sleepier. They genuinely believed they were adjusting. But when researchers tested their attention, their memory, their reaction time, and their decision making, their performance kept getting worse, even though they didn't notice it anymore. Think about that for a second. The biggest danger of sleep deprivation might not be feeling exhausted. It might be believing you're perfectly fine. That's what makes sleep so different from hunger. When you're hungry, you know you're hungry. But when you're sleep deprived, your brain slowly loses the ability to accurately judge how impaired it really is. And if that's true, then maybe the question isn't, can I get used to sleep? Maybe the better question is, can I trust my brain to tell me when I'm not getting enough? If that's true, then why do some people seem completely fine? Sleeping 5 hours a night, maybe you met someone like that, or maybe you've watched interviews with founders, CEOs, or entrepreneurs who proudly say, I only sleep 4 or 5 hours. It makes you wonder, am I just lazy? Should I be able to do that too? Here's what the research actually says. For a very small number of people, the answer is yes. There are rare genetic mutations, including one linked to a gene called DEC2 that allows some people to naturally function well with much less sleep than the average person. But here's the catch: those people are incredibly rare. Researchers estimate they make up well under 1% of the population, which means the chances are you probably aren't one of them. And that's where things get dangerous because we don't compare ourselves to average people. We compare ourselves to the exceptions: the founder who sleeps 4 hours, the entrepreneur boasting at 4 a.m., the guy online saying sleep is for people who don't want it enough. But biology doesn't care about motivational quotes. Your brain doesn't negotiate with hustle culture. It responds to a recovery, to consistency, to sleep. Researchers like Matthew Walker, Chris Winter, and Andrew Huberman all keep coming back to the same idea. Sleep isn't wasted time. It's when your brain does some of its most important work. It's strengthens memories, clears metabolic waste, regulates emotions, and prepares you to think clearly tomorrow. So maybe the goal was never to become someone who needs less sleep. Maybe the real goal is becoming someone who gets more out of a sleep they already need. Because once you understand that, another question suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. If sleep is so important, why do so many of us struggle to fall asleep, even when we are completely exhausted? So, if sleep is something your brain desperately needs, why is it sometimes so hard to actually fall asleep? You've probably experienced it. You've had a long day, you're physically exhausted, you get into bed, turn off the lights, and suddenly your brain decides it's the perfect time to replay every awkward conversation you've ever had. Or maybe you tell yourself you'll check your phone for only 5 minutes, and 30 minutes later, you're still scrolling, and now you're even more awake than before. But most people blame the screen, but the screen is only the part of the story. The bigger problem is stimulation. Every swipe, every notification, every short video, every new piece of information teaches your brain one thing: stay alert. Researchers like Andrew Huberman and sleep psychology Jay Wu have pointed out something that's easy to map. Falling asleep isn't something your brain actively does, it's something your brain has to stop doing. It has to stop searching, stop predicting, stop expecting the next reward. And that's exactly what modern apps are designed to interrupt. Not because they are evil, but because keeping your attention is their business model. That's why someone can be physically exhausted but mentally wide awake. Your body is asking for sleep, your brain is still waiting for one more scroll, one more video, one more notification. And maybe that's why the question was never, how do I train myself to need less sleep? Maybe the better question is, how do I stop training my brain to stay awake? So, can you train your body to need less sleep? For almost everyone, the answer is no. You might get used to the feeling, but that doesn't mean your brain needs less recovery. And honestly, I think we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking, how can I sleep less? Maybe we should be asking, why am I trying so hard to steal time from the one thing that gives me energy in the first place? Because sleep isn't time you're losing, it's an investment in every hour you awake. Almost everything people want more of: better focus, better decisions, better emotional control, better creativity, better memory starts the night before, not the next morning. And maybe that's why some of the world's leading sleep researchers, from Matthew Walker to Chris Winter to Jade Wu, keep coming back to the same conclusion. The goal isn't to become someone who needs less sleep. The goal, Hannah, is to protect sleep your brain already needs, because the people who perform the best usually aren't the ones who sleep the least. They are the ones who recover the best. If there is one thing I hope you remember after this video, it's this: your brain isn't wasting time when you're asleep. It's getting ready for the person you'll be tomorrow. If you enjoy this kind of video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. Not because I want another subscriber, but because this channel is built a little differently. Every video starts the same way, with a question, then I spend days digging into books, research papers, and conversation with experts. If you don't always have time to read or spend hours researching, that's exactly why I built this channel. So if that's valuable to you, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.